Hello and welcome to Talks at Google. My name is Hanzala Rahman. Today, we are going to meet someone who, apart from being a very famous Hindi movie actor, has also been instrumental in revolutionizing crowdfunding in India. Be it his debut Hindi movie Minakshi, his association with Ketto, or his hobbies like Formula car racing and flying, his choices in life have been unconventional to say the least. To discuss all of this and much more, please join me to welcome Kunal Kapoor. Hi Kunal, welcome to Talks at Google.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, man. How's it
Great.
going?
Yeah, it's going very well, and we are all really excited, at Google to host you. So thank you so much, for joining us. So, so Kunal, let's start this conversation. And given so much of diverse experience and the interesting choices that that you've made over the years, personally for me, it was difficult to really define a starting point for this conversation. But let me still try and start off by asking you about films, where it all started from. So please tell us about how movies happen.
I mean, I started off, I come from a business family, and I started off working with
Sure.
my father in his construction business. That's where the beginning happened. And after which I was very interested in the stock market. So I worked there for a year. And I also started an export business at some point of time when I was about 16 and a half to export mangoes to Hong Kong. And
Great.
all through that, I couldn't find what I was really interested in and what was really making me happy. And I think my father said something which was beautiful at that point of time. He said that, keep trying new things. It doesn't matter. Uh, when you find something that you'll do for free, you'll know that this is what you want to do for the rest of your life. And I think acting did that for me. It happened pretty coincidentally. I mean, I wanted to be an actor. I'd acted in school and college as well. It was something that I was interested in, but I wasn't quite sure whether I wanted to be in the movies. And a friend of mine actually called me. She was working for an ad agency, and she said, "I hope you still have long hair." So I said, "Yes, I do." So she said, "Would you like to make 5,000 rupees?" So I said, "Yeah, for sure." And so she said, "Okay, come over. We're shooting this ad, and we need someone with long hair." And that was the first time I was on a set. And once I was on a set, I was like, "This is what I want to do for the
Great.
rest of my life." Uh, it was an ad with
Great.
Rakesh Mehra, who I eventually worked with on Rang de Basanti. And I started off then, I called Rakesh, I chased him for a really long time. I said, "Look, I want to explore this further. Can I start off by assisting you in advertising?" And so I started off as a
Mhm.
production assistant, became an assistant director on a film called Lux, after which I went to Delhi and studied with Barry John because I decided I want to be an actor. And came back and did some theater with Nasir. And yeah, and then the movies happened.
Great. Great. So your first movie was Minakshi, right? And this was definitely unconventional. So tell us about how that happened.
Well, I think sometimes fate plays a big part in your life, and it's definitely played a part in my life. I remember when I was working with Rakesh Mehra as a
Sure.
production assistant. There used to be a lot of people that used to model to make some extra money. You know, when you're an assistant director or a production assistant, you get paid peanuts. So uh, everyone was like, "Why don't you, model on the side? You'll make some money and stuff." So I clicked some photographs and I went and dropped them at coincidentally Kunal Kapoor's office, Shashi Kapoor's son. He's a ad filmmaker, and I forgot all about them. And 6 years later, uh, which is when I had finished my acting course with Barry John and I was working in Nasir, I got a call from Hussain Saab, and he said that we had sent somebody to find photographs of actors that we think will fit the role, and we found your pictures at Kunal Kapoor's office, and these were pictures that I had dropped, like I said, 6 years back, and nothing. And 6 years later, I just got a call randomly from MF Hussain, and he said that we feel like you fit the part in terms of the look, so why don't you come and test? So it was really coincidental. And I remember, actually, when I went to drop the pictures,
Great.
you usually have an assistant sitting there who collects the pictures. And the assistant looked at the pictures and turned around where you write your name
Yeah.
and looked at me like I was really stupid and said, "Write your name, not the director's name." I said, "No, no, that is my name.
Okay.
Kunal Kapoor is my name as well."
Okay.
I dropped these pictures 6 years back, and and like I said, fate, it just was meant to be.
Amazing, amazing. No, really, really interesting, interesting story, and thanks for sharing that. So, Kunal, you've given some really memorable performances, a lot of which I have personally enjoyed. But conversations about films with you will be really incomplete without talking about Rang de Basanti. So, tell us about some of your memories of Rang de Basanti, and how did that happen? And especially, I would like to ask, did that have an influence on you as a person, given that it had a very strong social message, and people, the viewers were really impacted by it. Yeah.
So my journey with Rang de Basanti is actually quite a long one. I was an assistant with Rakesh Mehra, like I said, and at that point of time, Rang de Basanti was being written, and
Sure.
I had read the script as an assistant director. And at that point of time, actually, Rakesh was not doing it like a back and forth. He was just doing it as a period film, and then it sort of evolved into this movie that was going from present to past. So I had read Rang de Basanti multiple times as an assistant director, not knowing that eventually I'm
Sure.
going to act. And after which I went to Barry John. I came back, worked with Nasir, like I said, and Rakesh was casting for the film. So I called Rakesh and I said, is it possible for me to test for one of the parts? And I don't think he was completely convinced.
Okay.
He said, come in, okay, let's test you. Uh, Hoping that I'd be good, but not sure whether I would or not. And
Sure.
I came in and I did this. I did this letter that Ashfaqullah Khan had written to his mother, and Rakesh loved what I had done. And I did a couple of more tests after that with Atul Kulkarni because there's a lot of part that we have together. So it was very
Yeah.
important to get the chemistry right and see if we work together. So I did a
Yeah.
couple of tests with Atul Kulkarni, and I was on. I was on the film, and
Great.
what happens is that look, we didn't realize that this is going to become a film that it became much more than a film. It became pretty much a revolution. It became
Yeah.
something that really impacted the way people thought. I mean, I remember we were traveling for the promotions of the films, and we'd go into the theater in the interval to speak to people and talk to them about what they felt and stuff. And there was this one person who said that she had been watching the film for the fourth time, and she
Oh wow.
also read out a letter which she had carried because she knew that we were coming back. We were coming there to that day. She said that her sister, who was a doctor, she read the letter out. It was beautiful. Her sister, who was a doctor in America, had decided that she would come back to India after watching the film because
Wow.
she said that the line that we all keep complaining about the country but we don't do anything about it is something that really stayed with her, and she decided to come back. So we had so many stories like that. So it became more than a movie, a revolution. Uh, we obviously didn't know that that's going to happen while we were shooting the film. But we just had such a good time making the film because we felt like we had an important story to tell. We weren't sure whether the story would reach out to lots of people or not, or people would get it or not. But
Yeah.
we knew that we had an important story to tell. And also, as a unit, we just got along so well. I mean, everybody that watches the film says that, we feel like there was great chemistry between all of y'all. And
Yeah.
that's because there really was between all of us. I mean, we were pretty much living out of each other's houses. We shot this film together we were shooting for about 110 days. But besides that, even when we weren't shooting, I was living at Amir's house, and Sharman was living at Amir's house, and we were hanging out every night, and we were partying together, and we really got very, very close to each other. So I think everything that you see on screen is is a result of that. In fact, the last day that we were shooting was a song called Rubaru, which is in the radio station when we
Yeah.
all decide to say bye to each other because we're going to go to jail now. And that was actually the last day of shooting. Uh, so everything that you see on screen is actually, I feel, real because we knew that we had been on a beautiful journey together, and now it would change. We would
Yeah.
all go ways, and we would not have. I mean, we would always be close, but there wouldn't be a chance to spend so much time together. So we were actually saying bye to each other, not just
Yeah.
the cat, bye, even
Yeah.
the act bye to each other. So yeah, it was fantastic, and I don't know. It's very difficult to quantify how a film affects you, whether you're acting in it or you're watching it as an
Hmm.
audience. But I definitely believe that a film that is powerful and has a solid social message while being entertaining definitely leaves something inside you. You come out with something, and I think that sort of impacts everything that you do from there on. And I think
Yeah,
that's the beauty of cinema, is that if you can entertain people, which is of course the primary purpose of cinema, but at the
yeah.
same time they come out and there's a little change in their thinking as an audience. I think you've done a fantastic job then.
No, no, absolutely, absolutely, and and the fact that we still remember and talk fondly about that movie like 14 years, or
Right.
around that time, like more than a decade, that the film got released. I think that speaks volumes about the impact that it still has. So amazing, amazing performances and amazing movie. So that's really really great to know. So Kunal, 7 years after your first movie had released, in 2012, you decided to join Keto with your business partners Varun and Zahir, who joined at different points in time. So tell us a little about about the fundamental philosophy behind joining this crowdfunding initiative, especially because as a concept, crowdfunding was very little known of, and I'm sure it would have been a risk that you had taken, right, to get into this space.
So, it started with I was working with a number of NGOs in the social space, and I found that there were a lot of challenges that these NGOs were facing. Primary challenges were one was that the cost of fundraising was very high, sometimes as high as 50, 60% offline, uh, which I thought was unfair, and a lot more money needed to go to the people that actually needed the money.
Yeah.
Uh, Secondly, I thought that NGOs in this country have a big challenge because once you reach out your uh, to the people that donate to you, it's very difficult to reach out to them over and over again, because once they've
Yeah.
sort of given money for one project, you have to wait for a while before you can reach out to them for something else. And thirdly,
Absolutely.
I found that the whole ecosystem in this country, as far as crowdfunding, I mean, as far as the social space was concerned, was very serious. I mean, there was a we all felt that you had to be a certain sort of person to be involved in the social space in this country. Whereas when
Yeah.
I looked at the ecosystem out west, people were having a lot of fun. There were garage sales, there's celebrities were involved, sports people were involved, and I
Hmm.
felt that was a culture that we needed to bring into this country if we wanted to get more young people involved in
Yeah.
giving and the
Yeah.
social space. So those were the ideas in my head, and at that point of time, I happened to meet Varun, who's the co-founder, and
Sure.
he worked in the social space as well. And he had very similar ideas about what we need to do, and the it was based on two very simple things. One is that we need to use technology to build a bridge between people that can help and people that
Hmm.
need help. And the second premise was that people are good and people want to help other people, despite what you
Yeah.
see on the news. If you watch the news or on social media, you feel like there's just bad people out there in the world and it's a horrible place. But our premise was that people are good and they want to help other people.
Yeah.
Those were the two very simple sort of fundamental principles that we built the company on. And
Sure.
Keto is an abbreviation for Key to Tomorrow, because we felt like if we could sort of democratize capital and make capital accessible to everybody, then we
Hmm.
could be onto something that was really powerful.
Sure.
We started with that premise, and I mean it was very difficult to begin with. Of course, it
Yeah.
was difficult because you had to not only nobody knew about crowdfunding really, so
Yes.
you had to educate the
Hmm.
NGO, that you educate the people that would come and donate. We also had to reach out to investors because we were looking to build, of course, a business, and none of the investors were really interested. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of them told me, "Why are you wasting your time? You're an actor. Uh, Maybe you should do something, a startup which is related to what you do, and we don't think that this is going to work in India." So
Sure.
yeah, very challenging to begin with.
Sure. And yeah, and that was my next question, around the challenges. So you kind of touched upon that. So being a celebrity, did that help in any case? Yeah.
Well, it helps for sure. Honestly,
Hmm.
it helps you get meetings with whoever you want to get meetings with.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I think it's far more difficult when when people think that you're just a first-time entrepreneur, as opposed to people already knowing who you are. It becomes far more easy to reach out to people and get that meeting at least. So I
Hmm.
think that really helped. It also
Okay.
helped initially because I could reach out to friends that were celebrities and get them to start fundraisers, so that not only could they raise money, but people could be educated about how this is possible. And a friend of mine who's an investor actually put it really nicely. He said that starting a startup is like bodybuilding. You've got to put in a
Hmm.
lot of to make it happen. But if you have a founder who's famous, then it's like bodybuilding with steroids. It just happens. So I think that's what the truth is. Is I think you have to put in the hard work anyways, and you have to face all the challenges. But it just makes it easier for you because you have a lot more accessibility to people.
Absolutely, absolutely agree. So, in the last, 7, 8 years that you've been, that you guys have been working, with Keto. Uh, so, what are the key milestones, that Keto has achieved? Because we know, right, that businesses, especially startups, need those key milestones to
So,
become big, right? So, could you tell us about a couple of them, maybe the turning points for Keto?
well, till date we've raised about $120 million now on the platform, which I think is a huge amount. But coming from the fact that people said that Indians are not generous and they don't donate, I think the fact that we
Mhm.
raise so much uh, is just shows you that that's a wrong sort of thesis. Indians are generous. They're just looking for an avenue which is transparent and easy to make it happen.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what we're tempted to do, and that's what we're trying to do. Uh, I think it's very difficult to just put milestones. Our first big campaign was, I remember, was for these four athletes that were going for the Commonwealth Games and the Asian Games, and
Hmm.
these were athletes that they didn't have enough money for training and they didn't have enough money for equipment, so they decided to crowdfund, and we raised. That was our first big campaign. We raised about 20 lakhs for them, for the four of them.
No, that's great.
Two of them went and won medals at the Commonwealth Games, and one of them won at the Asian Games. So that
Wow.
was something that was really special for us. And since then, I mean, every day, we see so many people from across the country and across the world really come together to help somebody that they don't know. And
Hmm.
for that is something that is really special. I
Yeah.
think for each one of us working at Keto, it just sort of reinstates your faith in the goodness of the world. We're just
Yeah.
people that want to come together to help someone, and I think that for us is the biggest, the most important thing. I mean,
Yeah.
recently with this with the COVID pandemic that's happening, we've I had a friend of mine who was sitting with his daughter and watching the news. She's 9 years old, and the whole migrant crisis was playing out in the news. So she said, "Dad, I don't want to just sit around and watch. I want to do something." And so he
Hmm.
reached out and she started a campaign and she raised 10 lakhs for migrant workers. Uh,
Wow.
that was really special because it showed me that the future is in the right hands. Somebody who's 9 years old, is saying that I don't want to just sit around and watch. I want to make a difference. And you know, for us, there's nothing more powerful than that. Is that young people want to make a difference, and we can provide them the avenue, and we can provide them the platform to make that difference.
Absolutely. No, that's absolutely. And talking about about COVID special initiatives, I personally saw a lot of them, doing the rounds on Instagram and other social media websites, through Keto. Special mention of initiatives like the collaboration that you had with GoDaddy, or or the program Milker for Mumbai, or the Khaki project that you did for for the Mumbai police. So tell us about about how did they happen? Maybe one or two of them, and what's been the impact so far?
So Milkar is something where which I thought was very special because it meant Keto, it meant the top 10 NGOs that were working in the city.
Hmm.
It meant corporates and the government coming together on one single platform. And the idea behind that really was that, we were speaking to the government, and what we found is that uh, a lot of the help and a lot of the ration was going to the same place over and over again.
Okay.
And there were other places that actually needed it, and there was no help that was reaching those places.
Sure.
We got together with the government and the corporates, and we built an app for them. And the idea behind the app was to build a map of Bombay City, uh, which the BMC would keep updating, which meant
Okay.
that on the map you could see which was the area that needed the help the most at this point of time. So
Sure.
where's the area where there's a bigger outbreak, where there's people that need food, where there's people that need money most right now.
Sure.
And what you could do as an individual is you could go onto the map, click on that. The map would take you to all the NGOs that were working in that area, and you
Mm-hmm.
could then you to one of those NGOs. So the idea was to make giving and contributing local and hyper local. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
what happens is that, for instance, Dharavi is something which is an area which is really famous and talked about. So a lot of people then feel like Dharavi is the only one that needs help, and all
Yeah.
the starts going to Dharavi. But then
Yeah.
there's a lot of areas which are not getting enough help. So our idea was, how do we use technology to build this map where you as an individual can see which area actually needs the most help, and on that particular day, or that particular week, and then as an individual you can help NGOs that are working in that area.
Sure.
So for us, that was something that was, and it was obviously matched by the corporates. The corporate said that they would give 5 rupees for every 1 rupee that was donated. So
Wow.
it was
That's great.
something that was really powerful, because it brought together so many different elements of society together.
Sure. And like, is it still on, or like, was it very time
Still
specific?
on, still on. Yeah.
It's still on. Okay, great. That's really great. Now, that brings me to to my next question. If the viewers who are currently viewing this episode and eventually would be watching it once we are up on YouTube in a couple of weeks, if they, for example, Kunal, want to start a campaign, for example, for a family of the domestic help, who have lost their livelihood, do you think Keto could be a platform for them to leverage for even a smallish campaign of that sort?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's the power of crowdfunding, is that anyone can come and start a fundraiser.
Hmm.
Uh, and the thing is that, usually in the past, supposing like you're saying, I wanted to help my maid and my maid's family, and say I needed 2 lakh rupees, right? I would either have to make a few calls and say, look, my maid needs 2 lakh rupees. Can you help? I'm putting in 50,000. Can you put 10,000 each? Uh, what I can do with crowdfunding is I can create a campaign in a, in very very quickly. I mean, we can create the campaign for you in about half an hour. You can
Okay.
upload pictures of your maid. You can talk about the campaign, and then you just have to share the link on WhatsApp and Facebook and social media, and you know. So that makes it very easy to reach out to a large amount of people very quickly,
Sure.
which means
Sure.
if I'm reaching out to 5 people to help my maid with 2 lakh rupees, I can now reach out to 1,000 people. And
Yeah.
instead of
Yeah.
people giving 50,000 rupees or 40,000 rupees each, now 1,000 people can give 1,000 rupees each.
Yeah.
That I think is the power of it. And I've had a lot of friends that in this pandemic time who have never done anything related to the social space.
Sure.
But I had a friend of mine, Vikram Fadnis, who started a campaign for animals, because he felt like, all the stray dogs and cats and all the other animals would not get food, because you usually feed them, and now that the
Exactly.
streets were empty and people weren't stepping out, what would happen to them? So he started a campaign, and I think in a week he raised about 20 lakhs, and
Wow.
he was feeding animals for like a month. He'd step out every day with the food and go around the city and feed all the animals that he could find. I think it's very easy for anyone that is looking to do any sort of uh,
Sure.
is looking to make any sort of contribution, or looking to help in any sort of way, to start a campaign on a platform like Keto.
Sure. Sure, great. No, thanks. This is really interesting. And Kunal, when it comes to the donors, like for example, if I am the donor, I really want to ensure that the campaign I'm donating to is authentic. So
Right.
how do you as an organization ensure that?
So there's a couple of things. So firstly is all the NGOs that are working are listed on Keto. They have to have a certain amount of paperwork that's in place. So for instance, I think in India we
Okay.
have about 250,000 NGOs now, but we don't have
Uh,
a lot of them not on Keto, even though they've reached out to us because we found that the
sure.
paperwork wasn't in place. So there's a certain criteria that we have before you can be listed on Keto as an NGO that you have to
Mhm.
hit. Secondly, is a lot of the campaigns that we do are medical fundraisers. So what happens
Yeah.
is that if somebody is sick, they can start a campaign, or somebody close to them can start a campaign for them. And what we do is we ask for all the documents from the hospital. So what is the money that's required? What's the treatment that's going on? How long does the hospital think that this will take? When is the surgery going to happen? And the money then directly goes to the hospital. It doesn't go to the individual.
Sure. Sure.
So we find out how much money is required for this particular medical treatment, and then we send that much money after we've collected it to the hospital. And the
Okay.
third is like campaigns, like I said, like the Vikram Fadnis campaign or my friend's daughter. Usually, what happens in those sort of campaigns is that people reach out to networks very close to them. So you
Okay.
would typically reach out to your friends and family,
Yeah.
and only
Yeah.
when it becomes a really big campaign does it actually go to the second and third networks. So I feel like that sort of uh, is something that sort of takes care of the authenticity of it, because you'd have to be a very special kind of person to reach out to your friends and family and lie to them. And
Yeah.
I think
Exactly.
friends and family also donate and contribute only when you know that you're the person that's raising that money, their intention is right. So it sort of self verifies itself, because you're actually reaching out to your own network of people and their network of people. So there's this self verification sort of mechanism that happens.
Sure, sure. No, that's really helpful. That's really helpful. Now, given that as you said, Keto has already raised more than 1,100 crore Indian rupees. How does the future look like? What's your next step?
Uh, so there's a couple of things. First and foremost is that we've just made most of our campaigns a zero fee campaign, which means that Keto will now not charge any money. We shifted to a tipping system, which means that if you feel like you're happy with the service, or if you feel like you want to help the team, then you can tip, but there's no fee. And that was one of the things that we wanted to do when we started, was that, like I said, uh, the cost of fundraising was sometimes as high as 50, 60%. Our idea was, how do we bring that cost down? I'm very happy that in a lot of the campaigns, we've now managed to bring that down to 0%.
Oh,
Uh, the second is, like I said, crowdfunding is something that's just picking up in India. People are just sort of becoming aware of it. We want to change the thinking. Uh,
mhm.
Usually, what happens is, supposing I'm sick, I turn to insurance. If I don't have insurance, then I dip into my savings. If I don't have savings, then I probably start taking a loan. And if that doesn't work, then I start selling my properties or whatever I have. We want crowdfunding to be something that's very high up there, which means that once your insurance and your savings have run out, then you turn to crowdfunding instead of taking a loan and selling properties and stuff. So we want crowdfunding to become that popular that that's the thing that you think of when you think of a medical emergency or something that you need money for. That's
Sure.
how it is in a lot in, say, in America and Europe. That's how it's become now, crowdfunding.
Yeah. Yeah.
The third thing is that we don't just want to be a company that's only crowdfunding. We actually really want to explore different verticals in the medical space. There's a couple of
Okay.
verticals we're already working on. So crowdfunding is something that will continue as it is, but there's different verticals that will then expand to eventually.
Okay. Okay. Great. Well, that's great. And in India, typically we have seen that culturally people are a little averse to asking for money, especially when
Right.
it comes to their healthcare or education or something. They close very they have something which is very sensitive, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you plan to also drive some mindset change through campaigns, etc.?
I mean, we are hoping that that mindset change happens. It's happened pretty much organically up until now, which means
Okay.
that if I come on the platform, raise money successfully, then the next time I have somebody around me that's in, that needs money, or that needs some sort of help, then that person feels like Kunal's already done it. It was completely fine. There's no
Yeah.
reason that I can do it.
Yeah.
And so it's something that's happened pretty organically. That's not something that you can force upon people. You, that mindset is very difficult to change. If you are the sort of person that doesn't want to reach out to people, then there's nothing that we can do. But like
Yeah.
I'm saying,
Exactly.
organically, we found that if one person starts a campaign, a lot of people close to that person then start campaigns as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's absolutely true. And Kunal, talking about your next steps, do you guys plan to go global as well in the long run?
Well, there are a couple of other countries that we're exploring right now.
Okay.
Uh,
Sure.
we've been in talks with people. Uh,
Okay.
so that is one of the next steps. But like I said, our primary focus is India right now, because we really believe we've just scratched the surface from 8 years back when nobody knew about crowdfunding to now a 9-year-old girl saying that she wants to crowdfund. I think we've come a long way, but there's still a long way to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I think we wish you all the very best, for this amazing job that you and your team, are doing.
Thank
Uh, so moving on, Kunal, talking about your other engagements and hobbies, I recently loved, Spirit of Scotland. So tell us
you.
about how did that happen?
Oh, well, that was just something that I've been wanting to go to Scotland for a long time,
Sure,
and fortunately, I got this offer to do a show in Scotland. And I have to say, I'm not a big drinker, uh,
sure.
but uh, I had more than my fair share of scotch during this trip,
Sure.
and I'm not.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun. And what I found amazing about a place like Scotland is, which I feel at some level we also have, is that in our countries that there's a very, very strong connect to their roots. So they are a very modern country, but they bring their culture and their roots into everything that they do. Whether it's how they dress, whether it's their Scotch whiskey, whether it's the food that you eat in Scotland, it's all very, very rooted in their culture. And I
Yeah.
found that really fascinating. The other thing that was amazing about Scotland was the people. I've
Hmm.
never met nicer and more friendly people than I did in Scotland. They're just absolutely lovely. So it was great fun to do. The people that I met, the scotch that I drank, and I think that's the great thing about being an actor. You
Yeah.
get paid. Uh, you get paid to sometimes have a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great. Are you planning to explore more countries after we are done with COVID?
I mean, I'd love to. I've got my hands full right now with other things,
Okay.
but I'd
Sure.
love to. You know, Japan is a really big place now for Scotch whiskey, and
Sure.
Japan is a place that I really like. So maybe that could be the next destination that we head to.
Sure, sure, absolutely. And tell us a little about your other hobbies. I've read a lot that you're really fond of flying and Formula car racing. So tell us about how you got into that.
So well, flying was something I've wanted to do for a long time, and I had some time off, like I think about 8 9 years back. I had 4 months off, so I went to this flying academy, which is close to Bhopal, in a place called
Okay.
Sagar, and that's where I started flying. Uh, Great fun. I go back there whenever I have a chance. And at some point, I'd like to fly across the whole country. I'd like to go cross country across India. Start off from one end of the country and end up at the other. So that's something
Sure.
that I'd love to do. So flying is something I really enjoy. Racing is something I've been doing for the last now 12, 13 years. I started off training in uh, rally car driving, uh, participated in a few races, uh,
Sure.
uh, had a chance to dabble in Formula 3. So
Wow.
that's again something that I really enjoy. And besides that, I mean, I'm somebody that loves learning new things. I think more than anything else, I think that's at the core of my being is the constant need to learn. So
Sure.
I'm looking for new things to learn. I'm learning how to play the guitar now. I'm doing a course in AI. I'm writing a couple of scripts. Storytelling is something that I love. Whether it's as an actor, producer, director, writer, that's the thing that I'd love to keep doing, is to tell stories. So lots of things, yes. There's a lot of things that I want to learn, and lots of things that I want to understand.
Amazing, amazing. No, this is really inspiring, and very strong message to all of us. I think the viewers, that we should also diversify our interests and continue to just keep learning. What's also really interesting is your very effective management of your social media accounts, especially the Instagram account that I very keenly follow. I see that you use it very regularly for spreading social awareness, especially around topics that concern us. One such subject or topic which I really hold very close to myself is mental health, and I've seen you do a lot of live sessions with experts, etc. So tell us something about how what drives you to do this.
Well, I think that for me, what is really important, and I've seen it in people that are close to me, is that there's just such little talk about mental health. It's something that's probably the biggest epidemic in this country, right? There's so many people that are affected by it, and there's such little awareness about it. For instance, I had put out this post about what do you call schizophrenia, or if you're bipolar, or if you're depressed, or what are the words for that in Hindi? And there's no word. The only word that sort of describes all of that is pagal, right?
Yeah.
So if your starting point is pagal, then how do you sort of take away the shame, and how do you take away the stigma that is attached to mental health? So I think my whole endeavor really is that how do we, as people that have a voice,
Hmm.
make sure that the stigma attached to mental health is taken away. Like I said, I've seen it in people close to me, where they've been depressed, or they've been sick for a long time, and they've not reached out for help till it's got very late, because of the stigma attached to it. And
Yeah.
I feel like we really, really need to sort of have conversations in this country about mental health, about taking away the shame from mental health. And I think celebrities really play an important role, because I've always believed that as a celebrity, if I can sell colas, and I can sell clothes, and I can sell cars, there should be no reason that I can't put my voice behind a good cause. That should be as important as any other endorsement, or actually more important than any other endorsement. So uh, this is something that I have very strong feelings for, because, like I said, I've seen it in people close to me, in my family, and it's something that I really sort of want to raise my voice for.
Sure, sure. So no, really, really great. And I think we can't do justice to this subject with just one question, but really inspiring and interesting to see the change that you are trying to bring about. So great. So before we go on to the live questions, Kunal, one last question from my side is, what next from here for you?
What next from here? My God, that's so. I think storytelling is always going to be a big part of my life. Uh, I think there's that one thing that comes naturally to you. I remember I was
Hmm.
a very shy, introverted kid. Uh, but the only time I really found my voice was when I heard an interesting story, and then I wanted to
Yeah.
call it, tell them that story. Uh, call friends up and tell them about this beautiful thing that I heard, and that was something that sort of really brought me alive and gave me a voice. So
Hmm.
storytelling is something that I'd love to do, whether it's as an actor, writer, director, producer. I really want to put out the stories that I believe in
Hmm.
out there in the world. So that's one thing that's never going to change. The second
Hmm.
is I absolutely love tech. I think
Hmm.
it's very difficult for me to choose between storytelling and tech. Tech is, I feel, equally passionate about the two of them. So I'd really like to explore a lot more uh, as far as tech is concerned. And
Sure.
uh, then there's so many hobbies that I want to, explore, and there's so much that I want to do.
Sure.
Besides that, the other area that I'd really like to sort of look into is education.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's not a big startup, or even if it's in on a smaller level, education is something that I definitely like to involve myself in. I mean, to give you an example, our maids, we've decided to educate them. Uh, they are from UP, and over the last 6 months, we've been teaching them English, and I've
Mm-hmm.
already seen such a big change in their
Mm-hmm.
personality. I've seen such a big change in what they think
Yeah.
that they can potentially do.
Yeah.
So I think education is something that I'd really, really like to sort of help in.
Sure. No, that's really great, really great, and all. We wish you all the best, for all your endeavors. So we can,
Thank you.
we can now take the questions, Kunal. So
Yeah.
can we have the first question up on the screen? Okay, so we are getting a question from Nisha Jangra, and the question is, what do you enjoy the most about what you do?
What do I enjoy the most about what I do is, I think I'm just a very curious person, and I think acting sort of gave me a chance to use my curiosity at work. I've been part of a film in Punjab, Kashmir, Orissa,
Hmm.
Kerala, which means that I've had a chance as an actor to explore all those cultures. And
Sure.
I think the best thing about being an actor is that you get, all of us are defined by our point of views. So we have a point of view of the world which makes me Kunal and makes you who you are.
Yeah.
As an actor, you get a chance to see the world from different point of views. So I can see the world from a politician in Kashmir. I can see the world from a
Mm.
thug in Punjab. I can see the world from a freedom fighter. I can see the
Mm.
world from a martial artist in Kerala. So it's a chance to look at the world with completely new eyes, and I think that's something that I really really enjoy.
Great, amazing. No, that's really cool. Maybe we have time for another couple of questions. Uh, okay, I'm getting very questions like, how did the name Keto come about, and is there a story about behind this? Okay, so one question is, what inspired you to invest in? Okay, I think we've already answered this question. About how what's the story behind the name Keto. We have this question from Shashank Bhushan, which is, what inspired you to invest in Haiku Jam?
So I haven't invested in Haiku Jam. Uh, they are friends of mine, and I think they're a brilliant bunch of people. Very
Hmm.
young, very very impressive.
Sure.
I think great minds, and that's. And I also really enjoy. I mean, I enjoy poetry, so I really enjoyed what they were doing and what they were attempting to do. So I haven't invested in the company,
Sure.
but a lot of time with the founders of the company, and a lot of time looking at what they do. And I
Hmm.
also follow. I'm part of the Haiku Jam family.
Great. Great. That's great. That's great. Maybe we can take one or two last questions. Okay, we have one question from Ankur Rohila. Given your association with initiatives like Keto and then love for tech AI, can we expect some stories around real life issues and tech, say sci-fi from you?
Oh, I'd love that. I mean, I would. Some of my favorite films are sci-fi films, and the only challenge in this country right now, of course, is I mean, it's changing with OTT because now you can make content uh, without really thinking about whether this is going to be a hit film and make money or not. You can actually
Mm-hmm.
really experiment with things, and I have friends that are, which is great. But I'd love to. I'd love to do a sci-fi film. Uh, the challenge really is that if you're looking for it to reach out to a larger audience, how do you sort of make it educative and simple, uh, and at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, say the things that you want to say? Because when you make a sci-fi film out west, you already have an audience that is very familiar with the whole science fiction space, and everything related to the universe. Here, there's a lot more hand holding and spoon feeding that you'd have to do. But
Yeah.
thankfully, like the OTT platforms is changing, and it's something I definitely like to explore.
Great. Great. No, thanks, Kunal. We have one question from Sneha Shetia. So, hello, Kunal. You are really inspiring. Thanks for sharing your stories. My question to you is: you seem to be doing a lot of things. How do you manage time?
I get asked that question a lot of times, but I really don't think time is a problem. I think if you're, I think if you're really involved in what you're doing at that point of time,
Hmm.
then time is never an issue. The problem is that we live in a world of so much distraction that
Hmm.
half the time goes in being distracted, and
Yeah,
we've pretty much made distraction a part of our mental makeup as opposed to focus and concentration. So I think as long as you're absorbed in the moment, there's any paucity of time. There's enough time to do everything that you want to do. The question is that can you survive all the distractions? If you can, I think there's a lot more that you can do with your time.
great, great, amazing. Uh, okay, I can see one question from Kunal Pariani. When will we see you on big screen again?
Well, very soon there's a film that's up for release. It's called Koi Jane Na. It's something that I've never done before, so I'm very excited about it. We're
Great.
just waiting for the theaters to open up, so it's very difficult to sort of put a date to it. But soon enough, hopefully in the next 5 6 months, it'll be out.
Okay. Oh, that's great. That's great. All the best for that. So
Thank you.
one last question. I know there are a lot of comments, that are coming in. Given the time, we'll just take one last question. Are there any plans of spreading the word of this initiative, which is Keto, within the movie fraternity and getting, more public figures on board?
Well, actually, we've been very fortunate right from the beginning that a lot of public figures have been involved in the work that Keto does. So a lot of actors, right from Ritik, Abhishek, Anushka, Alia, uh, so many of them, cricketers, Virat, uh, a lot of other sports people, Mary Com, they've
Hmm.
all involved in a lot of the initiatives that we do.
Sure.
So, what I find is that, contrary to popular belief, I think the movie industry is one of the first industries to stand up whenever there is a crisis,
Hmm.
uh, and we've seen that on Keto. I mean, we've had so many actors that have just called me up and said, "Look, there's a flood in Assam. How can we help?
Yeah.
There's a earthquake even in Nepal. I want to help. Can I start a fundraiser? How do I contribute? Can we get together, do a concert? So there's a lot of interest and a lot of people that are willing to help from the movie industry.
Sure. Well, that's which is great. Which is great. Awesome. So I think we're done with the live questions for now. Kunal, before we leave you, as a co-owner of a crowdfunding platform that helps people realize their dreams and also helps them to come out of difficult situations, what would be your message to the viewers?
My God, what would I? Like I've been saying from the beginning, is that there's a lot of goodness in the world, and contrary to what we see on the news and contrary to what we see on our social media feed all the time, there's a lot of good people that are willing to help, and I just hope that I just feel like each one of us can contribute in some way, and I'm not saying on Keto, but I'm saying that each one of us can make some sort of difference. And I really hope that there's been this during this past 5 6 months. I've seen a lot of people coming forward, wanting to help, wanting to contribute. I hope that's a feeling that we continue even after this pandemic is over. I hope that it's something that becomes part of our life, because then that will make this whole thing worth it. If we've changed as people, and we really come forward and contribute to society. So I think that each and every one of us, in any small way that we can make any sort of difference, we should really come forward and do that.
Great. Amazing. So thank you so much, Kunal. Thank you, for joining us and for taking out the time. A big thanks to your team, to kind of making this, for making this possible. Thank you, to the viewers and the audience, for also for asking the live questions. With this, I think Kunal, it's time to, bid goodbye. And we hope that we are in touch, and when the pandemic is over, we hope to invite you, to the Google office.
Right. Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you so much. Your team's been wonderful, and it's been really nice chatting with you.
Thank you. Thanks. Take care. Bye
Take
bye.
care, man.